Hello and welcome to another knitting pod. I am Lena and I am so glad you're here today. I hope you are up for some knitting chit chat. It is pouring snow here, y'all. It has been snowing all week, barely a break in the snow. And it's just making me so happy. I cannot tell you how much I love snow, and I just really needed the warm weather to end, and it ended with a real bang. It is just perfect skiing and knitting weather, y'all. Sadly, I'm only doing one of those things right now, but I have some fun knitting to share with you today. Today, we're going to talk about the ranunculus that I cast on last week, and it's my second time on this pattern, and I know some of you have knit 9. Some of you have knit, just so many and so many different fibers. And when I knit my first one, I absolutely loved it. And it was just one of those things where I felt like I could turn around and recast one on. And I never did because the line in my life of things I want to knit is just so long. It's like books. You better be a superstar for me to reread you. And I do reread books sometimes when I really need comfort. But I really wanted to talk about today whether the ranunculus lived up to my memory of it. So let me show you real quick how far I've come. Last week I showed you, I literally just had a collar. Now I have the entire yoke done, and I split for the sleeves, and now I'm just going round and round in stockinette for the body. And you guys, spoiler alert, it was just as joyful and fun of a project as I remember. It is one of those Goldilocks projects where it just hits that sweet spot for me between mindless stockinette and interesting but not difficult, interesting like stitches that not only look interesting but are constructed in an interesting way. And it's just really a fun project. I will tell you real quick, and I'll give you a couple of tips that I've picked up on this round of my ranunculus. But oh my God, I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. Last time I showed you, I had the collar done. And then I think that same day I finished all the short rows for the top. So that top portion where you see stockinette, there's a lot of short rows to shape the front and back collar. And then you get into textured stitches. So rather than calling them lace, I believe she calls them textured. And you can kind of see, if I hold it steady, for those of you who haven't made it, you can see it a lot better in person, obviously, but you see like these wraps kind of. They're so beautiful because rarely do you see a stitch where the fiber comes up like diagonally in such a beautiful, like organic floral kind of way. Not in the, like, I know cables bend very smoothly, but this is just different. And it's neither lace nor cable. I think textured stitches are a good way to put it. But I got to the first round, a couple of rows of the textured stitches, and I was just proceeding with too much confidence and had completely forgotten my own lesson from the very first time I knit it, which is that when you're starting those textured stitches, count your stitch count at the end of every single row. It is annoying, but it takes like less than a minute. And if you're off, you can tink back and fix it. I did not do that. And several rows into the first textured stitch section, I was completely off somewhere. If you're even off one stitch, sometimes, like Stephen West always says, just make it work, fudge it. This is not that project. It would be very hard to fudge it. And if you don't get the stitch count right, those stitches aren't going to line up and create the yoke that is so absolutely unique and beautiful about this. So I would really encourage you to count your stitches. I had to end up ripping the entire thing off and starting back because I just did not want to be like, it would have been so much more time to try to fudge it and figure out like the stitch count and stuff. It's just not worth it. And this is the exact same thing that happened to me the first time. So apparently I had to take 2 of the same mistake to learn my lesson. So please take my 2 mistakes and substitute it for your 1 mistake and just count the stitches, okay? Because you don't want to have to do all those short rows again. I actually really like short rows. And when I ripped it back, I did it with a smile because it's like, I rolled my eyes at myself and I did it. And it's all knitting, right? It doesn't matter. It took me, the morning to kind of recast it all on and do all that and get back on track. But even then, it was super duper fun. And I think even the short rows, it's not too much and it's really fun and it goes really fast. And then you get into this amazing textured part. And then you get into kind of a little bit that is more kind of traditional lace with these diamonds that are made out of little eyelets that are so pretty. And then it kind of repeats again, the top. And then you get into the easy stockinette. And what I've realized is that top yoke is so satisfying. And then when you get to the body, you're just like ready to just kind of, it's like running the hard part of your run first and then enjoying the flat part for the rest of it. That's kind of how I feel. And now this is something I can knit in the car when my son is driving and knit at games and all that stuff. And I would love to finish it by Thanksgiving, but I really just don't know. This week has not been like, haven't been able to knock out as much knitting. I feel like the body will go really fast, but I think once I get onto the sleeves, it might be a little slower. I don't know. We'll see. A couple of other tips. One is about the needles. Now, when I first did it, I realized I needed a much smaller circumference. And these are the US 10 6mm needles. I did not have in my Chow set the needles with the cords that were small enough to start the collar. I'm holding it upside down to start the collar. Sorry, a little stitch marker fell off. Needle stopper. So I bought at my really close local yarn shop a fixed circular US size, whatever, 10. I keep mixing up the millimeters and the sizes. And they, at that point, did not carry Chow, so I bought the Addies because, whatever, they're stainless steel. How different could they be? Now, I love me some Addies because they have this butteriness to their needles that is glorious. Y'all, I love the buttery feel. I don't know how else to say it, but I am knitting that blanket with some fixed Addies, and it literally feels like you're knitting with butter. They're just so silky smooth compared to the Chow. However, they have a very blunt tip. This particular kind. I don't know if Addie, I'm not familiar with their line. I'm sure they have a sharper one, but this was not it. And y'all, it was really irritating to, knit that kind of lacework type knitting where you're knitting 2 together, you're picking up stitches, and with a fingering weight yarn especially, that dull, thick, big needle was it was robbing me of my joy. So then I went out and found these Chow last time and I switched, and this is, can you see it? I don't know if it's gonna focus, but it's so much pointier. I wish I had grabbed the Addies to show you the difference, but I don't wanna stop and go get them. These are the real deal for this. So I suggest you use stainless steel with a pointier tip than the Addies. I really might switch now that I'm talking about how the buttery experience, very like luxury. It's like driving a luxury car where it's like so smooth. I want to do the rest of it maybe with the Addies. So I might switch because I also always have guilt. They were like $18 and that's a lot. And I don't want them to just languish. So I might switch to the Addies and finish the body with those. What else? I had some other tips and I forgot. The main one truly is to count your stitches, okay? There comes a point where you might not have to, but those beginning textured patterns. The other, like, do you see those little upside down kind of like little parenthetical type stitch? It's just purl and slip one in four, like with yarn in front. It creates just such a unique, interesting look. She's just so good at it. And it's so, I don't know, I've never seen another pattern like this. It's just one of my favorites. And it is 10 out of 10. It is 100% worth the hype, okay? There are thousands and thousands of pages of projects on Ravelry, and that is not by accident. It's a brilliant pattern, and I absolutely love that all the sizes start the same, and then they increase out, and you can make the body whatever size you want. I'm making size 2, which is I think the same as last time. I found it to not have a ton of ease, but I actually feel like the ease was just that perfect between like looking like you're swimming in a bag and oversized in like a chic feminine way. So that's why I decided to go with this number 2, although I really think I could have gone with one size up and it still wouldn't feel like it was swimming, like I was swimming on it. The other thing I do want to say, and I remember saying this in my first Ranunculus video, is you do not have to do that fancy cast on that she has in the directions. I remember finding it really nitpicky and then just thinking, why don't I just do my typical twisted German cast on? So I always do kind of a mix oftentimes between long tail and a twisted German. I kind of mix them because it doesn't need to be so stretchy, but I like the extra insurance policy so that it has like a nice, comfortable, open neckline. I also don't like super tight. I just don't think it's flattering on me. So this is perfectly stretchy, as you can see how much it will stretch, and it's just a lot quicker, and it has a twisted rib cast on, ribbing collar, and I think it just looks so beautiful. Finally, last but not least, this yarn is Ritual Dyes, which is a store and yarn company in Portland, Oregon. I've talked about them a lot because I'm obsessed with them. They're the ones that put that Sacred Sheep Yarn Festival on. This is their base. It's called Maven, and the colorway is Jewelweed. This is 100% Rambouillet wool, non-superwash, fully sourced and produced in the United States. It's, climate beneficial, all that good stuff. This farm has been raising sheep for like 150 years in California and blah, blah, blah. All this to say, this baby is $30 for 50 grams, which is 265 yards. That is a pricey yarn, y'all. However, you get what you pay for. This bad boy is glorious. Like, if this weren't so expensive, I would use this for so many things. This rises to the level of like a linen quill for me. And linen quill has such a particular look. You could like pick it out of a crowd if you're a yarn person, right? Like, I can tell if Jessica's wearing something out of linen quill, I can say that right away. This has more of a like anonymous yarn look, which I actually kind of prefer sometimes. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, and maybe that's just silly, but that's how I feel. Like, this has just a little less of you can't pick it out of a crowd. It looks more kind of almost like the pattern can shine a little more because the fiber doesn't have a lot going on. It's a little bit, she calls it slubby. It's a little thick and thin, which again, I really like. It just enhances that organic nature. I did end up buying one more skein with like deep reluctance because I really didn't want to pay for it and I didn't want to pay for the shipping. However, I am more obsessed with this color than I ever thought possible. Like, I loved it in the skein and I thought it was less beautiful once I wound it up, but watching it knit up, it's so shocking to me. This feels like possibly one of my favorite colors of all time now. It is, I don't know. I've never been a red person. I'm not into the color red, but this particular tomato, very orangey red, it's just so rich and vibrant, and it makes me so happy. Usually I don't get this much joy unless it's like a variegated yarn, like a hedgehog fibers, when they do speckles and variegation so well that watching the fabric knit up is like watching art be made. This is not the yarn that I was expecting to feel that way about, but oh my gosh, knitting this in this cold, dreary weather is, while it's pouring snow, is possibly the happiest I get. I don't know that I get any happier than this. Like last Saturday, we call it rot days in our house, where we just don't do anything. We all just do whatever we want, and we don't have like things on the to-do list that have to get done. And those are the best days ever. Like every day can't be a rot day, because then it just doesn't hold any special. You just feel gross. But if you live a very hectic, busy, driven life, then when you have rot days, they're just so glorious. So last Saturday, we watched college football, and I just literally sat on the couch and knit on this, and my daughter got her knitting out and she knit, and the boys were watching college football, and just we were all just kind of, I read an article about how happy families engage in parallel play, which is what a lot of really young kids do, right? Like they're playing together but on different things. And that struck such a chord with me. Our happiest moments are when we are parallel playing. Like the football's on and they're watching it and talking, and then Kai and I are knitting, and maybe we're baking. My husband's baking something, and my son might be, he loves Adobe Photoshop, and he'll be like creating logos for something on his laptop and watching, whatever that makes us happy. And it's just so great. And the dogs are around. It's just, we're not all doing the same thing, but we're all just around sharing our joyful things. And that's like my best day in the whole wide world. And last Saturday was that. And that's when I was knitting this. And so to me, that's what's so special about knitting, is that you feel like whatever energy you have is being knit into the fabric. And forever, when I wear those garments, I remember what season of my life I was in when I was knitting that. And so to me, they're heirlooms in that way. Like they're little time capsules of feeling and experience with whoever you love and whoever you spend time with. So anyway, yeah, that is the Ranunculus. If I have any further tips that I forgot to share with you, I will share them next time. But I totally, totally recommend this. And it feels very appropriate for the holidays, even though I'm not like it's Christmas, let's wear red kind of person. This is just making me want it now. And I think I'm going to have a decent amount of leftovers, and I would love to make a hat, because I feel like this color would be really pretty as a hat. And lately, since it's hot weather, again, I've been busting out the hand knit hats. And I found that like the ones with mohair just tend to be really itchy for me. So I really think I need to, which is just really sucks, because I love the halo that your head gets when you have a mohair hat on, like where you held it double. It's just, there's nothing like it, but it's so itchy. So I'm thinking, if I have leftovers, I would love to make a hat with this, with no mohair. Even though they have a matching mohair to this, they were out of stock. Otherwise, I would have bought it. Even though I'm telling you right now that it's too itchy, I don't think I could have resisted jewel weed with mohair, because, it's so good. Normally, I'm a hot pink girl. Y'all know this. I'm like a pink through and through. But I am in love with this tomato red. And the name jewelweed, I don't know why, it just rings my bell. I love it. Okay, guys, I have one last thing to tell you, and then I really need to, actually, I taped a little second part, so you'll see that after this. But the last thing I wanted to tell you is a huge, huge Cashmere shout out to Stephen Whitcomb, okay? He is a very sweet, dedicated viewer, and he is, always, anytime he pops into my DMs, he always has something very valuable to tell me. I feel like he's my, fairy yarn father or something, like always has something very helpful. And he found the yarn I was looking for, y'all, the petite knit double Sunday into the woods. I'm making that baby cardigan and I ran out of yarn with like 1 inch of knitting left. He found it in Canada. He was like, it says on the website, they don't ship to the US, but see if they will. Otherwise, they can ship it to me because he lives in Canada and I'll ship it to you, which is like every one of you that from Europe, some of you had said that you would do that for me, which is just like, y'all are the freaking best people ever, okay? You're just so wonderful and I love you just for even offering, because that is like above and beyond. But I did send them a message and they got back to me and I called them and she said, yes, I'll absolutely ship it. And the shipping was not crazy at all. It'll probably be like $15. And to me, that extra $15 is really worth it, not to have to rip back all the front panel and stripe new yarn. Like, it's just worth it. Number one, it's worth it because I love my baby Chunks. I want to make him this cardigan and I don't want it to be a consolation cardigan. Like, oh, I ran out of yarn. I had to do something funky and call it a style choice. I want it to be perfect. I love him. So it's totally worth it because I love him. And also to save me all that irritation of ripping it back and figuring it out and all that. So I'm really hopeful that it comes maybe in time for me to finish it for his birthday. Otherwise, it's totally fine. I'll just give it to her after when I'm done. But I just wanted to shout out Stephen and everybody else who I really tried to get it off of Ravelry, but nobody responded to me on Ravelry about buying it from their stash. So whatever, all's well that ends well. And hopefully this works out and it comes and I can knock it out and we have a beautiful baby cardigan. Isn't it just ironic though? Like I was saying, when I started this cardigan, I love gift knitting to use up yarn. And I loathe when I have to actually then buy yarn and then I have that yarn in my stash. But what are you going to do? It happens to the best of us. We all lose yarn chickens sometimes. Okay, I have a lot to do for the rest of the day. I'm going to stop this section and then finish off in a second. You'll see the end. And yeah. So I'll see you back in a second. Okay, guys, let's pivot away from knitting and yarn and let's pivot to a little bit of visiting about life. Here in the United States, it's been a very interesting week. And before we get into it, first of all, sorry, I feel like my thoughts might be a little difficult to nail down, but before I even start, I want to say this is not about politics, okay? I have made a very, very conscious decision to not talk about things that are divisive on this channel, even things like, that I hold very dear. I made a choice to have a space here where we are all brought together by our shared love of knitting and fiber. Excuse me, someone is calling me. I'm gonna just click it. And I wanted it to be a space where we're just connected by the things we love. And this week, no matter in the election here in the States, if you were thrilled by the outcome or horrified, this is these are my thoughts for everybody. This has nothing to do with politics. It only has to do with where I've really landed after a couple of days. I've been thinking a lot. I've been cycling through all sorts of emotions, as I'm sure a lot of people are. And what I've realized for myself is I will not turn away from anyone anymore My goal in life is going to be to see beyond the labels that we so instinctually put on people, whether it's right when we see them and we characterize them in our minds as old or young or man or woman, or what, by the way they're dressed or their cowboy boots or their tattoos, whatever it is. I want to make the concerted effort in my daily life to look past those things and at the humanity below all the labels. I refuse to turn away from people that don't think exactly like me. I know that that is the lifeblood of the entire system. It runs by our outrage and our dehumanizing of each other, and I just refuse to have my humanity robbed from me, no matter what anybody else's choices are. Because at the end of the day, we all have reasons for where we have landed, and the people that we support to run our systems, we all come there to our decisions from someplace, and we can never understand someone else's choices until we have truly lived in their shoes, and that is impossible. So as far as I can, I will stay human, and I will not turn away from the fellow living, breathing beings that surround me. And I'll just tell you one quick thing. If you're new here, for many years I taught yoga and fitness, and I recently, last year, stopped for many reasons. But one of the things I loved the absolute most about teaching was no matter who walked in the door to take my class, and I always had tons of regulars, but I also had people that were new that I had never seen before. I didn't know anything about those people. I didn't know where they were from. I didn't know, sometimes I didn't even know their name. I didn't know what they believed, but all I knew was my body, mind, and soul were invested in giving them my love and energy and uplifting energy, for lack of a better word, for that whole hour, in hopes that their day would get better, their life would get better, they would feel better about themselves, they would believe in their abilities a little bit more, they would partake in the group energy that is expended and uplifted when you do something really hard together. And that was my favorite thing, is feeling like I could help bring a little light to people's days and just generally their lives. And that becoming a fitness instructor, it sounds like nothing, but it transformed me into the kind of person that saw every small interaction with strangers as something that could really bring light into the world. And so when I'm in line at Starbucks, or I randomly see people, or the person serving me at a restaurant, I always try to talk to them. I try to make them smile. I make stupid jokes because I'm a joke maker and I like to make people laugh. I will not stop doing that. And I will see more value in that now, because I think if we try, every one of us, no matter what your beliefs are, to see the humanity and refuse to demonize each other and turn against each other, as trite and cheesy as it sounds, I don't know that there's any other way forward. Because in my house, my boys are very into football, college football specifically. They're huge Texas Longhorns fans. And football, hold on, this is going to be deep. Football is a game. There is a winner and there's a loser. There's a championship, there's a trophy. There's every year there's a winner, the best team, the end. We have turned our politics in this world into freaking college football. We see it as a zero-sum game, that if you win, I lose. If I win, you lose. And we have forgotten that the whole point is to lift each other up and give each other space to realize the hopes and dreams for yourself and your friends and your family. And I want every one of you to think about if you say you want the best for your world and your country, we have to rededicate ourselves to each other and seeing beyond the labels. We cannot see each other by our races. We cannot see each other by our political inclinations. We cannot do that anymore. It's not working. So whether you're filled with joy or filled with heartbreak, I want you to consider that going forward in your daily life. And maybe that is the most radical, revolutionary thing we can do, is refuse to play the game. And that is what I will do. That does not mean I will not fight for my values in this world, but I will not do it with hate in my heart. I refuse. I respectfully decline the invitation to play the game that way anymore. So that's all I have to say. I really debated even talking about it, but I decided we do real life here. Like, if you enjoy my channel, this is me. There is no filter of like who I am. This is who I am in my daily life. With the people that know me, this is the me. So I love you guys. You're my community. You're my people. I share my passions with you. And it felt like leaving a huge gaping hole if I didn't say what I've been thinking and share that. I also want to express deep gratitude to my dog. I have 2 dogs, but one of them in specific. We have a Great Pyrenees and we have a Lab. And if you know anything about dog breeds, the Great Pyrenees she is just her own person. If she wants to be loved, she will make sure you know that. If she doesn't, just you can stay in your own lane. The Lab is a bursting ball of love and joy. And in difficult moments this week, like, this is going to make me cry just because I'm so grateful to her. She's made me realize the sun still rises even if you're disappointed in something. And when I've been struggling, when she wakes up in the morning, bounding with energy and her body literally breaking in half from wagging so hard, and just taking the same joy in barreling through the snow with her snout and chewing her bone in the morning and seeing the kids come down the stairs. Her commitment to living in the moment, fully present in this moment's okayness, is, again, a revolution and like the most radical thing you can aim for. And it has not only gotten me through, but it's also modeled how we should live. So, she's over there snoring. I'm not going to apologize for her because I've apologized so many times, and y'all always send a message like, we can't even hear her. Stop apologizing for her. But she is my little love. She's so sweet. And I don't think I would have gotten through this week without her. So anyway, I will leave you there today with those thoughts. Thank you for giving me the space to talk to you guys. Honestly, I hope truly that this is a space that you find comfort in and joy in, no matter what you believe or stand for. I see you and I appreciate you, and I am always here for you. And today also, last thing, is my daughter's birthday. She is turning 11, and I am so excited to celebrate with her. I'm going to go pull her out of school early, take her for a girls' day, before we come home and celebrate with the family. So very much looking forward to that. And with that, I will say goodbye to you. Be well, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye.